Hello and welcome. I should sit down. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the podcast. My name is Bella and we're here for another week, which is very exciting because, guys, the last one was received so much better on YouTube than I thought it was going to be. I just need to get comfy. I've also got my tea, which I've now realised I don't think I can drink and chat, but I feel like it adds to the aesthetic of the video if I have it in my hand, and so we're just gonna leave it there. Sorry if you're listening to this, it's not gonna make as much sense, but I promise we'll get onto the podcast now. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the podcast. My name is Bella and we're here for another week, which is very exciting because, well, first off, it's Thursday and I don't really know how because I feel like this week has flown by. Like, this week has not dragged in the slightest. I cannot believe we're already at the weekend again, which is a bit like I don't really know what's happened this week, but things have happened. Do you know what I mean? Like, it feels like time has flown, but I don't really remember experiencing it. I think it's because I'm in a bit of a solid routine at the moment, which has pros and cons. Like, it's good to be in the routine, and I know I said I was craving it. So this is hypocritical, and I am my own worst enemy. I know I said I was missing the routine, but now I am in the routine. Thoughts. It's okay. Do you know what it is? The thing that gets me? Waking up so early to go to the gym. Waking up at 6:30 every single morning, 5 days in a row. That's really early. Okay, that is really early. I go to bed at 11 most nights. I have noticed since moving to Manchester, my sleeping patterns got better, and I don't scroll as much anymore. And I think it's because, like, obviously my boyfriend's here, and I'm not just gonna like scroll because then we're both going to be awake. So I'm just going to be playing videos. And so it makes me more aware of my scrolling. But it's just, I go to bed and I think, oh, the gym again. The thing is, it always makes me feel better going. And I'm always glad that I've gone because I never, ever want to go in an evening. Me in the gym in the evenings, I hate it. I hate it passionately. It's just something about it being so busy, so packed, so like I can't do anything that I want to do. Honestly, wouldn't recommend. And so going in the morning has been helpful, but it's just like I'm realizing routine is a bit boring. It is boring, and there's no way around that. Routine is just boring. And so I need to do something a bit out of my routine. Next week, I have quite a few plans, which is exciting. And I feel like I need to just plan a few more evening activities in, you know? This week, I went to the cinema. I'll update you on Smile at the end of the week because that has to go under new things I've watched. I cannot explain it right here. But I had a lovely weekend. I know I said I wasn't drinking, okay? I know I did say that. Didn't go to plan. But anyway, we move. I went to the theatre for the Royal Exchange and I went to go see the preview of this new play called Pith by Daniel something. And it was a preview. I've never been to a preview of a play before. Also, I did my nails. You can't see, they're very subtle. It's like a subtle nail. It kind of literally just looks like mine, but better. I'm hoping it'll stop me biting my nails because it's bad at the moment. Anyway, we get sidetracked. Went to the theatre, and because it was a preview, he was just trying out his new content. He was like a stand-up comedian type thing, and so he was trying out his new content and seeing how well it went. And it just made it really funny and really interactive because he'd say something and it wouldn't land, and he'd just make a massive joke about it. And just like it was really nice having that like fourth wall broken. I love things like that where it feels like you're kind of going along in the play too. And so would really recommend it, to be honest. I don't know what the actual play will be like. My friend's going to have seen it. I think she saw it last night, so I'm going to message him after this about it. But honestly, I really, really enjoyed it. He was just really naturally funny and none of it felt forced. The storyline felt good. I left thinking about things that I didn't think about before, and I feel like that's always a sign of like a good play is when you leave it considering things that you haven't considered before. Like he made this brilliant like metaphor, is it? Imagery? I don't know. But he said deciding that you're never going to fall in love again at your age is like getting into your pajamas at lunchtime. And ever since then, I've really been thinking about how much our mindset about life impacts the end up life that we live. And like that is, to be honest, ends up the life that we live. That just makes no sense. Ends up impacting the life that we currently live. And that is the content of this week's podcast. So we're not going to go too much into it. But I think, yeah, it just really got me thinking. So if you are in Manchester, tickets are like £15, really, really good value. And it was like 2 or 3 hours. Definitely worth your money, I would say. And then On the Saturday, we obviously went for a few drinks after that. On the Saturday, I felt a little bit hungover, I can't lie. But it was one of those days where I just woke up and the day just kind of passed, but in a very nice pottering way. Went and did some work bits with my boyfriend, went into town, had some nice food, went to a pub, cooked a lovely dinner, although the lovely dinner wasn't as lovely as I was expecting. Turns out, when you cook pumpkin pasta, you're not meant to put the entire pumpkin in. I didn't realise this, okay? I thought it won't really matter. This sounds really stupid, but I didn't even consider the fact that, like, you wouldn't put the entire pumpkin in. It kind of felt wrong to only put a slight amount in. So I put the entire of a quite large pumpkin into this pasta. It was awful. It was actually awful. It tasted fine, but so pumpkin-y. And I put butternut squash with it, so it was really just root vegetables in a... Well, actually, no, I don't think a pumpkin's a root vegetable. I don't know what a pumpkin is. Is it a fruit? It's not a fruit. Anyway, it was just vegetables upon vegetables, and I was just like, and the pasta to sauce ratio was all off. Honestly, really didn't enjoy. But we tried to do, have you seen the paint and sip date nights where it's like £30? I didn't want to pay that because it just feels very expensive. And so I did it ourselves. We did do your own paint and sip night. And honestly, it was so much fun. I would highly recommend. And we ended up painting each other. Shocking. If you see my Instagram post, absolutely shocking. The thing is that I was actually quite intimidated, and I actually thought mine was excellent. Until I held it next to Louis and realised it looks nothing like him. It doesn't even a little bit look like him. His nose is off centre, his eyes aren't equal, everything about it is wrong. And so it just made it so much of a more funny experience, especially turning them around like it was a joke. And then after that, on the Sunday, just had a very chill day. Went and met my friend, found a new coffee bar, where I'm going to do my podcast stuff. Really enjoyed it there, and it had a lovely atmosphere. So I'm going to go there on Sunday again, early morning. Honestly, I just really enjoyed it. I just had a very lovely chill Sunday, and it meant that when I came back into work on Monday, I felt rested, which we all know was the end goal, which I was a bit concerned about when I was a little bit hungover on Saturday. I thought, I've ruined the week. I've ruined the weekend, but no, we can deal with a slight hangover. It's just not a major hangover is what we're not dealing with. But as I say, work at the moment and gymming at the moment, and just, I'm not going to lie, I feel like I haven't really done much this week. I feel like I've been a bit boring. But sometimes I feel like you need to be in your boring era. Sometimes it's important, and right now I'm giving myself a chance to really focus on the podcast, really focus on You've Got Mail, and focus on just like resting and recuperating a little bit, because life, I feel like everything's very busy at the moment, and I feel not lost, but like a little bit lost, as we know. And so I feel like it's all right for me to give myself this moment of kind of calmness and breathing, and just allow myself to be and see what things fall into, and just see where things go. And things like that can't happen unless you are open to things coming into your life. And in order to be open to things coming into your life, you have to have a calmer state of mind, and you have to have space in your life. And I think this is what a lot of people, personally, I believe, about manifestation get wrong, is they don't realize that, like, for your life to change, you have to create space for it to change. And whether that means calming your brain down so it has space enough to listen to new thoughts, whether that means clearing out some time in your calendar just to work out what you want to do, you have to give yourself space to breathe. I think about life a lot like plants. This sounds weird, but hear me out. And it's like the ideas. And whatever you want your life to grow into, you have to give it space to grow. And you have to give it the energy to grow. And you have to give it the daylight and the rain. And you have to let it sleep. And you have to give it time to grow, but you have to give it the space to grow. And I think so much of us just fill our lives and our calendars with so many activities and so much like to-do lists that we forget that these great lives that we want to create take time and space to create them. It takes a moment for things to move into place. And I think that's something that is a new thing that I've recently been realizing more and more, is that there's no point filling my calendar with 1,000 trillion ideas of what I want to do, when what I really want to do is A, and I can also just relax and let that come into fruition. And I don't mean not do anything for it, but I mean chock a block in your calendar isn't going to make you feel great. It's going to make you feel burnt out, and it's going to make you feel like you don't have time or space to figure anything out, and that's what we're trying to avoid. But anyway, let's move on to the content of this week's podcast episode. And this week's episode is a bit of an interesting one because we're changing. Maybe this is a bad decision. Maybe I'm going to end up being able to spin the topics that I want to have together, but I honestly don't know. I'm just not comfy. Okay, 1 minute. This being open is really bothering me. Okay, we're fine. We're comfortable now. I'm ready now. So when I was doing my pre-session scroll, as I do, got to give myself a brain moment to just debrief and relax for a second before we come into this. I stumbled across a TikTok post and it said, we're going to do a little brain exercise. And I love these, the flicky ones where it's all the photos all lined up. I love them. Honestly, I do them every time. And it was like, this is going to be really simple and it's going to help you change your perspective on life. And it said, I would read it to you, but we're currently recording on my phone, so that is obviously not an option. But it said, the first section was, name the top 5 Nobel Prize winners. Then the second question was, name the top 5 Olympians. And the third question was, name the top 5 richest people in the world. Then the next question was, name the top 5 business people. Then the next question was, name the top 5 professors. And then it was like, scroll. That was me scrolling. And then it was like, that was hard, wasn't it? And then it said, because medals and accomplishments will tarnish in the end, but it's the impact that you make on people that will always last. And it was like, now let's try something again. And it said, name the top 5 teachers that had an impact on you in your life. Name the top 3 people that really were there for you when you were going through something. Name the person that makes you laugh the most. And all of a sudden it really got me thinking, and it's not to say that those achievements aren't important, and it's not to say that they're not valuable, and it's not to say that striving for greatness in your career isn't great. But I think a big part about this quarter life crisis that I felt like I was having last week, and we've moved out of it, but we're probably still in it a little bit, was realizing that what I need to put pressure and value on isn't necessarily the things we were taught in school to put value on. And that can be really tricky because it means that these things that you think are really important and these things that you think are incredibly valuable that you're taught for your entire life, actually you reach an age where you realize, oh, they weren't everything. Getting straight A's wasn't everything. Having a job where I earn a certain amount of money wasn't everything. Being the best in my field wasn't everything. And I think it's weird because once you reach a certain level of success and not that I've reached that yet, but from what I've seen for the people around me, once you reach a certain level of success, there's this idea that that'll make you feel satisfied. But so many people who reach an unbelievable level of success say the satisfaction came in the journey. The satisfaction came in what you were doing, teaching something about yourself to yourself, proving things about your character, proving new things about your character. It showed you how much you could really grind. It really taught you stuff about yourself. And that was where the value was. It wasn't in this end product. It wasn't in this thing that you thought you were going to get. And it wasn't in the final goal. Because I remember this, when I got my master's, this feeling of being like, I can't believe I've done it. I can't believe I've got it. I'm so proud of myself. But then flip side, it was also like, but I'm never going to go through that again. And I kind of weirdly miss it. And I kind of think it wasn't getting the master's that was the great thing. It was all of those days where I thought I was going to drop out and I didn't. And I stuck through it. And look where I am now. And I'm so much stronger than I think I am. And it was that proof in the journey of experiencing that showed me those things. And I think when I think about the people that are impactful in my life and the impact that they've had, rarely have they been the people deemed by society to be the ultra successful people that I've met. And it's not saying that the ultra successful people in life aren't that person to someone, but it's just saying that we put so much value on these accomplishments. But those accomplishments, Like, sometimes I wish they came a bit secondary to how good we were as a person. Because I think so much value is placed on beauty and your ability to be successful and your productivity and, all of these things that we can measure. And so little value is placed on like just how good you are as a person. That feels like it's always secondary. It's all of these ways that we're able to impact society and be productive and make it better and better and better and better. Or it's all of these things that are totally like things that we can't control. Like, I always find it mental that if you're pretty or beautiful by society standards, that is valued so much more than something you can actually work hard at, than your education, or then, the ability to be just a nice person, which I know it is changing and I know education is being more valued, but things still aren't good enough. Pretty privilege is a thing. It's really problematic. And having the knowledge of that in our current society, and then thinking about how often the things that we can really put effort in are least valued by the people around us, like that I find tricky. And it's a tricky thing to get my head around. It makes me think about the world that I was brought up into. And I've been reflecting a lot of my inner child in all of this. Because I think now I'm 24. I'm not that old. I recognize I'm sounding like I'm like, now I've reached that age. I'm not that age. I'm just 24. But I'm having a realization, okay? I have placed so much value on academic valuation, on career validation, on other people telling me that I'm doing a good job. Because for so many years of my life, that was how I felt like I was doing a good job. It was the people around me that made me feel like what I was doing was worthwhile, because they would give me that satisfaction. The satisfaction never came from me, which means that these things that I think are really important and really valuable often aren't the things that deep down in my soul I think are really valuable. And it's this hard realization of these things that you really, really valued for so long actually might not be the things you really want to value anymore. And you're going to have to unpack that. And you're going to have to really think back to your inner child and who that person was and how they got to here. And you're going to try and get to that person. And I think the inner child is something else that I really wanted this podcast episode to be about, because I've really been thinking about it a lot recently. And it's been a big topic of, I just realised my socks have loads of bits on them. Please don't judge, okay? I'm just going to ignore that. But your inner child is the way you view your childlike self, and it often comes out in trauma situations or high stress situations, in your reactions of how you deal with things, often to do with how you were treated as a child, and often to do with past experiences. And I think, well, we know that your inner child, for me personally, really impacts my subconscious beliefs. And it's something that I've been unpacking a lot in the new therapy that I've been doing, which is the EMDR therapy, which honestly have been it's been life-changing. It's been really, really brilliant. And it's about finding beliefs and unpacking them and connecting them to an image, and then repopulating that image with a different image, and working out how you can reprogram your brain to process that piece of information. And something that I didn't realize was going to help as much as it has helped is how much visualization of past experiences and your current self can help you guide you through stressful situations in your past and can help you deal with it. And I think this work and this getting to know your inner child is so, so important, because it's through unpacking the way that you process different information, you process different memories, and you process different subconscious beliefs, that's how you're able to, like, processing all of that information and unpacking yourself and really getting to know yourself and doing in the work. That's how you find out what you value in life. I feel like so many of us end up feeling a bit lost when we're 23, 24, 25, is because we've been told this thing for so long. Then all of a sudden we start to have a really frontal lobe develops. We start to have a wake up call and we think, oh, you know what? Actually, my family really matter. My being able to be with my friends after work matter. Not having to work all the time matters, being able to feel happy and content in myself, feeling confident in who I am, surrounding myself with good people, the life that I live, my everyday life matters. And I think this is a big thing. Your everyday life, your routine, the life that you currently live, that is your life that you are living. And it's not to say don't be aspirational, look towards the future and set yourself goals. Obviously do that. But you need to make your day-to-day something that you really enjoy. You need to make it something that you enjoy spending your time doing, because that is what you're doing majority of the time. And I think that was something that I've really had to put effort in, is making sure that I'm not just living for the weekends, that I'm finding bits of joy in every single day, that I'm actively trying to create joy. And the way that I've been looking at the type of joy that I've been trying to create is revisiting my younger self and really consciously thinking about what made them happy. How did that make them happy? What did they enjoy doing? Why did they enjoy doing it? What types of emotions did I like to feel? How did it make me feel? What was the impact of all of that on my life? And trying to incorporate that into my current day. Because the most famous people in the world, they don't have an impact on us right now. But the people in our immediate circles, the people that we interact with on a day-to-day basis, they have an impact. And they will have an impact, and they have had an impact. Because like I said at the start of the podcast episode, I can remember those key teachers that made a difference. You know, I can remember the friends that held my hand when I was sad, and I can remember the girls that got me through university, and I can remember London and my friends in London, how they got me through that, and I can remember these key people that got me through really big life experiences for me. It wasn't the 10 most famous people, but it was the 10 most famous people to me in that moment. And in order to invest in those relationships and make sure that you're bringing your best to those relationships, I think it's really important to make sure that you're being true to who you are. And in order to be true to who you are, you have to unpack who your inner child is. You know, you can't go through life just missing it. You cannot go through life thinking, I wonder if this is it. I wonder if this is all I can bring. Because so much about who we are has been, you know, tapered. Because of the type of environment that we're brought up in school, everything is so similar and the same, and you have to do it, and it just is what it is, and you just have to get on with it. That when you're finally faced with a decision that's outside of that remit of just everything being routine and everything being the same, then it is hard. You know, it's hard to find yourself because you've lost yourself for so long. But it doesn't mean you have to lose yourself forever. It just means you have to put effort into finding yourself again. But on to the question part of this week's podcast, and we're going to do a quick fire one because I'm shattered. Like I am. I'm crashing, and I know this is in a different place than the other video was, but okay. How do you deal with overwhelming thoughts creating peace in everyday life? You have to give yourself space. You have to give yourself space. You have to stop over planning. You might have to cancel plans. You have to give yourself space to breathe. I think we can't create peace in the everyday unless we have a moment to breathe, to like regroup ourselves. And one of the things that I've been really like listening to that has actually really helped is their Core Beautiful chorus. And I have this song called like Breathe It In. This sounds ridiculous, okay, but it's like this meditation song, but it's like a song more than like a meditation. And I just do it whenever I feel a little bit stressed, on my way to work, at work, you know, on my way home. I play it around my head and I just think, and it's helped. And I don't know if it stopped the overwhelming thoughts, but it has felt like it stopped them a little bit. My thoughts don't feel as overwhelming anymore. It doesn't feel quite as all-consuming. And I have managed to create space. And I think the only thing I can account that to is creating more space in my everyday. Is giving myself time to rest when I need to rest. And I think that's been important. What's your favourite or most effective method of venting for you? I think the thing that I found important is staying on top of my movement and making sure I do things. Because if I just sit and I wallow, I can wallow. But sometimes, okay, and I stand by this, sometimes you need to wallow. Sometimes you need to complain and you need to vent. And I think everyone needs that person. You know, everyone needs that person. But if you don't have that person, my favourite method of venting, journaling. The thing that I've told this green journal right here, no, that going to my grave. Okay, that will never get shared ever. Because sometimes you just need to vent, let it all out. I love writing a letter. Never sending the letter. If you really need to vent and get something out of your system, write them a letter, just in your journal. You're never planning on sending it, so really let yourself go. And sometimes you just need to vent and get it out your system. You need to say all of the things that you've held back from saying, and then you'll say them and you'll think, oh, it either didn't give me as much relief as I thought it was going to give me, or it made me feel loads better, or it didn't make me feel anything, and now I've kind of scratched that itch and I can move on. But the most effective methods are either saying it to an actual person and just venting, staying on top of your emotions and making sure that you're regulating your emotions through every day, through breathing, like I said before, through going like to the gym or walking or whatever type of movement you like to do, making sure that you're doing that, giving yourself space, but then also realizing pen and paper means you're just venting to yourself, and that is really also important. I also can vouch for a voice memo. I love a voice memo, okay? Just really let yourself go. Pretend you're recording a podcast on it. Really unpack the situation. Promise it'll give you some closure. And final question. Advice on how to lean on being okay with being bored and always having something to do. I would say realizing that most people are a bit bored sometimes, and that being bored isn't a bad thing, and it's not something you need to feel guilty about, and it's not something you need to beat yourself up about. Like, a lot of us are bored, and it's quite normal to be bored. And I don't think we've normalized it. I think we think that every single person is A-okay and filling their life with so many incredible things all of the time. When you look at half of us, like you look at me last night, for example, like, oh, I went to the gym, I ran on the treadmill for 30 minutes and listened to a podcast, and came home and cooked dinner, watched some TV, and I went to bed. That was my evening. That was all I did. And I think it's just stopping to putting so much pressure on yourself allows you to be okay with being bored and actually enjoy being bored, and seeing being bored as just a bit of downtime that you deserve to have, you know? It's thinking that you don't have to, like, being bored isn't an inherently bad thing. And I think it's realizing that because you're bored, that doesn't mean you need to put more social pressure on yourself to hang out with other people or push yourself in other ways. It's all right to be bored. We're all a little bit bored sometimes. And now onto the new things that I've done this week. So, first new thing I've done this week, like I said, I went to see Smile. You're not ready. You're not ready. It was so scary. It was really gory, can't lie. And not something like, I don't think that's a weekend watch. We went and saw it on a Monday, and I think that was a good decision because it was quite a stressful film situation. I can't lie. I was very anxious. I ate so many sweets and chocolate, just nervous eating, not even enjoying it. I just felt like I had to have something in my hand because it was making me feel very stressed and anxious. Also, haven't had tuna crunch in a while. Had that on a jacket potato for dinner tonight. Absolutely delicious. Honestly, I've overeaten today. In a way of like, I had dinner and then had another dinner straight away afterwards, and I just feel slightly sick. I can't lie, but it will go. The moment will pass. Tuna crunch, though, delicious. And finally, on the new things that I've done this week, look what book I found. Oh, she's coming. She's back. Do you know what? I have realised this is my book. This will forever be the book where if I'm feeling a little bit lost, this is the book. You know? Wild, A Journey from Lost to Found. And I remember reading this, what was it? There was this sentence that I read earlier on, and I was just like, I remembered why I love this. I remember why I love this book. Right, give me a moment because this is going to take a moment. We're going to talk about this on next week's podcast about being your own best friend. But anyway, I feel like I have revisited that topic quite a few times. So I need to find a new spin on it, you know? I'm going to read you a chapter. No, a paragraph. Chapter would be excessive. I walked back to my camp and sat for a long time on the picnic table. Context, she's doing a massive walk. A massive walk. The Pacific Coast Trail. It's huge. It takes like months and months and months to walk, and she's walking it. That's all you need to know. I don't want to spoil it. I went to Monster and took out the cigarettes in the faux glass case that Jimmy Carter had given me earlier that day. I didn't smoke, but I broke the case open anyway, sat on top of the picnic table and lit the cigarette. I'd been on the PCT for little more than a month. It seemed like a long time, and it also felt like my trip had just begun. Like I was only now digging into whatever it was that I was out here to do. Like I was still the woman with the hole in her heart, but the hole had gotten so infinitely smaller. I took a drag and I blew the smoke from my mouth, remembering how I'd felt more alone than anyone in the whole wide world that morning after Jimmy Carter drove away. Maybe I was more alone than anyone in the whole wide world. Maybe that was okay. And I just thought, this book is so. The story in it and the way that it's written with such honesty, and the story that is told, and I love how the story is interwoven. Like, you're climbing the trail and you're having the realizations about her and her life and her past and the things that she's gone through, and it's not told in a chronological way, but the hike is in a chronological way, and so you've got that type of narrative that is guiding you through, so you never feel like you're jumping, but you just feel like you're processing. And I think going through someone else's emotions and processing their own life with them makes me process my own. And I think it's really weirdly therapeutic reading a book about someone doing a long walk, because you feel like you're weirdly going along the walk with them. And it's this weird kind of structure that it gives your life about the information that you're processing, and it's very samey, and it just gives you that moment to breathe. And this book feels like my breathing moment. So if you're also feeling a little bit lost, you know what you need to read. But anyway, I love you. I hope you have a lovely week, and I can't wait to speak to you again soon. Bye. Oh, make sure you follow me on Instagram, and that's a weird angle. Make sure you are following me on Instagram and on TikTok at You've Got Mail _ pod, and I cannot wait to speak to you next week. I love you. Bye.